Good evening. This is Leading and Learning in 21st Century Schools, presented by Laura Callender. As a result of reading the 3 assigned texts and attending the school visits with principals and administrators from around Western Washington, I've had an opportunity to reflect on the core values that I established at the beginning of this course. As I began to shift my perspective from that of a classroom teacher to that of a building leader and administrator, I began to see my priorities shifting. Through reading Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, Ken Robinson's Out of Our Minds, and Yang Zhao's Reach for Greatness, I really began to refine my thinking about what I believe about students and staff and what the priority needs are in a school community. The 5 core values and beliefs that will be at the heart of my leadership are these: that the school community, staff, and students are empowered by our humanity, that we each possess diverse individual strengths, we build trust and relationships through vulnerability, we learn and grow through curiosity and creativity, and all members of the school community can achieve at high levels. The paramount value that I want to embrace as a new school leader is the belief that we are empowered by our humanity. Brené Brown suggests that as leaders, rather than protecting and hiding our heart behind bulletproof glass, wholeheartedness is about integration. It's integrating our thinking, feeling, and behavior. These are 3 components that, when working together, make us uniquely human. The skill necessary in order to practice wholeheartedness is empathy. Yang Zhao defines empathy as the ability to identify and understand others' feelings and situations. Understanding the situations, the context, and the emotions within the school community is critical for a school leader. It impacts the decision-making process on a day-to-day and minute-to-minute basis. Not only will it help the school leader collaborate, create teams, and have a functioning system, but it's critical that they nurture empathy in their teaching staff. As Yang Zhao points out, teachers need empathy and emotional intelligence in order to reach each and every unique student and help him or her grow. It's through empathy that we will ultimately improve student academic growth. Ken Robinson quotes Daniel Goldman as saying, "There's a continual dance between intellect and emotions, feeling and reason, which is essential to the function of both. Without empathy, we cannot have effective functioning reasoning within our brains." Robinson says that the intellect cannot work at its best without emotional intelligence. It's through recognizing our humanity and by practicing wholeheartedness and empathy that we will make improvements within our school systems. Robinson suggests that that improvement includes leaving behind an industrial model of education and embracing creativity and curiosity and the skills of collaboration and empathy that will be needed for 21st century innovation. As a leader, believing that we are empowered by our humanity allows us to then see and believe that everyone in the learning community possesses diverse individual strengths. Craig Johnson from Central Kitsap High School spoke about how getting to know his administrative team and his teachers as humans allowed him to see what their strengths were, both personally and professionally. That made him be okay with giving directions and letting them take on the work and seeing it through. Brené Brown speaks about this as a 10-person race that can be turned into more of a coordinated relay in which team members baton toss to each other's strengths. This not only reduces the workload, but it creates growth in that the people who are the best at the task are then taking responsibility for it. Yang Zhao speaks about this not only in terms of doing the work because we're good at it, but because we have a drive to turn our greatness into something valuable for others. He speaks about how human beings need to create value for others and be a worthy partner in the relationship that makes contributions that are unique through the discovery and developing and contributing their unique talents. Zhao takes it a step further because his ideas are really about student learning. And as the instructional leader in the building, it's important to recognize the unique strengths of each of our learners. Ken Robinson would suggest that in the industrial era, we didn't look at that. We didn't take concern over what the individual strengths were. Our workplace had a need, and therefore we as educators trained our students to fill that need. Robinson and Zhao both suggest a change to that model into a more personalizable education. Zhao states that personalizable education is about enhancing students' strengths and supporting their passions. He and Robinson both express a desire for schools and school leaders to nurture natural talents and creativity in students. Believing that staff and students possess diverse individual strengths means shifting to a system of education that supports creativity and results in innovation. Here to Lead brought home for me the difference between being a teacher and being a building administrator. As an educator, I've always known that relationships are important to schools and that those relationships rely on trust. As a new leader, however, I now believe that we build trust and relationships through vulnerability. I always thought that vulnerability just meant sharing your deepest emotions. I now understand that it's much more than that. It is leading from the heart, but as Brené Brown states, it is also modeling resilience and being a learner as opposed to being afraid of failure. It is knowing one's own value and celebrating others as opposed to being in competition. It's cultivating shared purpose and commitment as opposed to using power for compliance and control. And it's about healthy boundaries and clear communication. That healthy boundaries and clear communication piece really became clear to me when listening to Craig Johnson from Central Kitsap High School. As a 1,600 student school, he spoke a lot about the need for clear communication and establishing boundaries. He talked about having a calendar that he would put out a month in advance with meetings and know who and where and what was going to take place in that meeting so that everyone understood and had time to prepare and feel ready. He spoke about including multiple people within the learning community, all the way from custodial staff to students to parents and community members, and involving them in the decision making, which is vulnerable to hear from people on the outside of the school building all the way to the students, can feel scary but have great results. Brown asserts that leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. This is a point that as a new administrator, I will have to keep in mind. With trust and relationship established and vulnerability as one of our strengths, everyone in the learning community, adults and students alike, can work together to learn and grow through curiosity and creativity. One of Robinson's tenets is that we have to allow creativity to flourish in our schools in order to meet 21st century needs. He suggests that being a creative leader means ensuring that everyone in the organization is playing to their strengths and feels that their contribution is valued. Zhao would argue that that includes students. He states that children are born learners. They want to and are able to take control of their learning. As adults, we need to create an education that supports and helps children to take control of their education. We may not know enough to have practice nailing every rumble, says Brené Brown, but we know enough to get curious. And as school leaders, we need to get curious and creative with developing systems that support innovation and 21st century skills. With firm beliefs and practices rooted in the previous 4 values, we come to the 5th, and that is that the school community, staff, and students can achieve at high levels. Brené Brown said, "We fail the minute we let someone else define success for us." And that led me to the question, what does it mean to achieve at high levels? What is success for a school leader? I'm still trying to find the answer to that question, but I believe that I'm closer. Yang Zhao says, all children can learn, but not all children can be great at everything. So as Robinson suggests, standardized testing perhaps is not the best way to measure what we might call success. While there are limits to using standardized testing as a full measure of success, there are many other measures of success within the school community. Andrew Kane, principal at Cedar Heights Middle School, talked about how he sees success and helps his teachers see success in their daily workings. He talked about catching the moment where the teacher's mind and heart meet the student's mind and heart, and magnifying that moment so that the teacher can see it and that it's reflected to the school community. That is a measure of success. He also spoke of telling his school's stories with his daily 5. He sends out a daily post to social media and other communications that tells 5 success stories from within each school day. That is absolutely a measure of success. As a new leader, I'll be looking for those moments of success within the daily life of the school community. So as I see it, through the lens of my core values, as well as the need to move education into the 21st century, changes have to be made. Change isn't easy, nor is it fast, and yet there are steps that a new leader can and should take in order to build the capacity to make change in the long term and in the short term. The first thing that I would do as a new leader and how it would apply in my school building is that I would listen and learn. Lead with empathy by hearing how others are experiencing through their feelings and their emotions, their school community. What do they think is going well? What do they think needs to change? Being part of a school community means being a learner in more ways than one. And so asking questions and listening has to be the first step. The next step would be making sure that I'm visible, getting out of the office, not just for show, but getting to know the people, the humans who make up the school community. Going out to talk to the teachers, visiting the staff room during lunches, greeting parents and students at the door in the mornings or at the pickup lane and drop-off lanes, making sure that I have a visibility in the school building with all of the school community. Once those relationships are on the way to being built and there is a level of trust that's been established, we'll start building teams. It will be important to build a team of teacher leaders and administrators and instructional staff who have a variety of strengths, making sure that the hiring practices are such that we're incorporating people whose strengths complement that of our school and our existing staff will help make sure that we can improve and grow. Once teams are built, we'll start analyzing the data, the instructional data, the belonging data, the data that tells us what our strengths are and what our areas for improvement are. Once we know our areas of strength, we'll need to tell those stories. Building a social media presence, building a communication method for telling our stories, not just within our building to each other, but to outside our building, to communities at large. I'd like to build a social media presence for the school that I go to, and have people who are strong at handling that find the stories and put them out there. I'd like to have students involved in that as well. Once that happens, it will be important to take a look at how do we bring creativity and innovation into our school. That's going to require an analysis of any kind of master schedules. My hope is to be an administrator at the secondary level. I know how I could do it there. I also think at the elementary school level, there is some way to bring in programs such as 20 time or project-based learning that can personalize education for individual students, allow them time within the school day to use an inquiry model to pursue passions, talents, and interests of their own, while also incorporating core academics within those projects and within that inquiry. I think an analysis of the schedule and using the resources of the people in the school can establish some kind of pathway forward for more creative and innovative learning.